This video is brought to you by volunteeraudio.com, your #1 source for all things Harley Davidson audio. From individual radios, speakers, and amps to complete plug-and-play amp and speaker systems, we've got you covered. And once you've ordered your package from Volunteer Audio, it includes lifetime tech support. And we have the very best step-by-step installation video so you can install it yourself and save money. All right, so we need to look at this very carefully because when you order a kit for your CVO, some of them actually have a different lower part that has a true 6.5-inch speaker. And if it does, we're gonna reuse that lower adapter. If you have a CVO and you have these added on speakers that actually snap into the door, and what I mean by that is we're just gonna unsnap this to get access to our fluid. If it unsnaps like this, that is just a little 5 1/4. It's a terrible speaker. We're not gonna reuse this at all. We're gonna replace this with a new adapter. So it's good to know which style you have. There were 2 different options from Harley. We're going to reuse this part. If you have the bigger speaker, if you have the smaller one, this is all going to get replaced. At least that's what we have today. So we're going to show you how to install those lower adapters as well. But simply pop it out, unplug it, set it to the side. We will not be reusing any of this wiring because this is the add-on wiring. We're going to be removing that. We're going to be running new wiring from our upper pods. All right, so we're going to move on to our lower pods. We're going to show you how to remove this factory adapter first. As we said earlier, if you had the 6.5-inch speakers here, you could reuse it. This one had the 5 1/4. So we're going to be removing a torque screw that's in our latch assembly here. So I'm going to take that loose. This can be easier with a 1/4-inch drive ratchet, a short extension, but it is a T25. What we're doing is we're just taking loose this little lever that lets you open and close this vent over here to the side. All right, next we're going to go up inside of here and we're going to remove an 11mm bolt. And that nut actually is holding this outer cap on that we've got to get to the rest of our hardware. All right, so once we have that nut undone, we can remove this cap. Just going to kind of pull back on it. Making sure we get it out here around this bar. All right, so I'm going to take that off. You'll see there's actually a washer and a stud in here that this nut went on. All right, so we're going to go ahead and remove these 2 11mm as well. This is going to let us lean this forward enough to get to a bolt that's behind here. All right, so now we're going to take our T25 and we're going to go in here and remove the torque screws that are holding our adapters on. There's going to be 3 of them. There's going to be one in this hole, and one in a hole right behind here. And now we're going to come in under here because we've got it loose enough to do so. Removing that 3rd screw. All right, so the inner part of our lower is now loose. We're going to come around to the front side and we're going to pull out, and you're going to realize that there's an inner section that it clips into. So I'm going to be pulling these clips loose. There they are. You see those 2 clips? They just had to come loose from this inner section that stays in place. Now, somebody had already added a set of lower speakers. It was a dealer add-on. So this wiring is here, but we're not going to use it. We're going to run new wiring in. Now, if you didn't have speakers, there wouldn't be any wiring here at all. But they had done the terrible little 5 1/4. It's actually like a 4-inch speaker behind a 5 1/4 grill that snapped in here. It's pretty embarrassing how bad it is and that people actually had to pay for that. All right, so before we go back together with our new speaker adapters for our lower fairing, this is our new harness, and it's a very, very simple idea that this part is going to plug into the fairing right at the front speaker pod, and new harnessing is going to run out to here and into our speaker pod. All that matters is that you put the left speaker pod is connected to the one on the left side and the right one on the right side. There's 2 different ones in color. Doesn't really matter where you put them as long as you plug them into the same side that you've got your speaker on. So we're going to fish that through just like we did our power wire earlier through this fairing. Just kind of going the other way though. So we're going to get our cover off. Pull our new wiring out. All right, so now at this point, we're gonna run this wiring just down to this bar and zip tie it and have it inside of here. Now, I think I've got a little bit of excess on this side, so I'm gonna pull a little bit more into the fairing. So we'll zip tie this where it goes, and we'll pull any excess back in there before we zip tie it up here at the top. But that's gonna be just about enough. So we're gonna start zip tying it all the way back up into there. So once we've got it zip tied, we're just going to take our side cutters and we're going to flush cut all of our zip ties. Just that easy. We've got our new wiring ran in. So now let's get our new lower adapters and get those put in place. All right, so this is a newer part for us, and I've gotten where I really like it because we have this flat black portion, so it goes with any of the flat black accents on your bike, but at the same time it has a gloss black outer that looks really good with all of your specials and limiteds that have the painted inner fairings. But I really like the brass inserts, and the end result looks so good with our grill that matches our Tour Pack speakers. So it's going to look really good installed, as well as those brass inserts allow us not to worry about the tech at the dealership stripping out the speaker screws when they're checking the fluid, as they do that with your service work. So it's going to come, just like you see it here, pretty well already put together. It's going to come with this piece of foam that we're going to have to stick right here. This is just going to give us maybe a little less of a air hole here for everything to escape. These are vented lowers with radiators, so none of this is actually sealed up. This is just going to give us a little bit less of a look into there. All of this is installed. We're also going to be transferring these clips off of the previous adapter. We're just going to take a little straight screwdriver. I'm going to release the clips on each side. And then each one of those, or the one that we need, is just going to snap in right there. So there's actually only one on this where there were two on the factory. We're going to go back in. The factory screws are going to go right back into these holes. All right, so these are going to be available at Volunteer Audio, and they're actually branded as Kenwood. They're made by Hog Tunes, and it's in conjunction together that they offer those to us. But they're available on our website and an option in most of these packages. So we're just going to slide it on just around that heater hose. Taking that little clip, lining it up and clipping in the bottom. Now we're going to move to the other side and get each one of these screws started into that hole. I'm just going to start all three of them before I tighten any of them. This being the third one, I'm going to go ahead and bring it all the way in and tighten it up. Go back to the other two and finish tightening those. All right, so all three of those are tight. Now we're going to go ahead and put our clamp back on, re-securing this to our lower engine guard. All right, so this is something that quite often I forget. I put the speaker in, then I realize I haven't done this. So I want you to go ahead and right now take your cover, put it on, get it back in place, and get that screw or that nut put on from the other side. All right, so with a longer extension, I'm going to come in here and put this where it goes. All right, so on this screw, which is actually going to hold this inner linkage to the little sliding lever that you're going to use to open and close that vent, you can't go all the way tight. If you do, this isn't going to slide anymore. So you always, from the factory, there was Loctite. We're going to put Loctite. We use the blue. Blue is going to be something that we can take off later, but we're going to put some Loctite on that screw before we go together. We've Loctited our screw. We're going to get it started here with our T25. We've moved to a ratchet now because of this hole that we now have for our speaker. Makes it a little harder to get a straight driver on it, or a lot harder to get a straight driver on it. All right, so if you go all the way tight, you see it no longer, it doesn't move. So we're going to loosen it a little bit just to the point that we can slide this, letting our Loctite keep our bolt in place. All right, so that's how tight we want to leave it. Now we have our speaker to go in next. So we're always going to take a pair of pliers, and we are going to tighten these terminals up to make sure that they do not come loose from vibration. This is a Harley. We're going to have to do a little extra steps just to make sure everything continues to work. Now our striped wire is going to be our negative. So we're going to find the negative symbol on the back of our speaker. We're going to plug it into that negative terminal. Again, no matter what you install or how much you think you did it right, at the end we're going to do a polarity test to make sure all of our speakers are working together, firing in the same direction to give us the best sound. So our speaker is going to drop in here. Let's get our new grill. All right, so now here's our new grill. It's going to actually fit into our speaker. Awesome. The little tabs on the back are going to set down into each one of those holes. Now we're going to take these machine T20 screws. We're going to find that nutsert or that insert, and we're going to start each one of those. Not tightening any of them all the way down yet. Now we're just going to tighten each one of our screws up if they're all started. This grill is the one that actually pulls into that speaker. So we're going to make sure it's pulled all the way in. And doesn't this look good? If you think this is a really good looking lower, good looking combination, comment below. Tell us what you think about it. But I really like the look of this new lower compared to the all flat black ones. And with this bike having this gloss, it's really a really dark blue on the bottom here where it's a CVO with that gloss black. Has a great look. Now we're going to do that same thing on the other side. I really don't have a reason to film it. It's the exact same process. There's the same bolt inside that you saw over here. There is a coolant tank, but it's right above it. So we're going to move over. We're going to get that done. We'll come back to you in a few minutes, and we'll move on to the rest of our step-by-step video series.